So let's discuss what Eclipse is and why you should be using it, or a tool like it, for example, Android Studio. Well, Eclipse essentially is an IDE. An IDE stands for Interactive Development Environment. It's designed to make it faster to develop apps or Android apps than by the alternative, which is sort of command line tools. Now, you may not be familiar with the concept of a command line tool, so I'm just going to show this on the screen. To the left is sort of what the command line is. That's where you've got a very basic sort of textual interface, and you have to type your commands in, and it's very cryptic, and it's great for geeks like me, but it takes a lot longer to learn compared to the alternative. So this is an IDE, as you can see on the screen now. It's a very nice graphical user interface. It does a lot of things behind the scenes for you. So really what the idea of this is, you can focus on building apps and not getting bogged down learning difficult to remember commands, syntaxes and those types of things. Now trust me on this, when I started Java in the late 1990s, these types of tools did not exist, or if they did exist, they were very primitive. These days, these tools really do save you a lot of time. They're extremely powerful, and they'll automate a lot of common functions at a press of a button. They do things like, for example, renaming something, which is often a problem to get right manually, easily without error. In a manual process, let's just say you had a particular part of the program code and you wanted to name it, and maybe that was used in 100 places. You would manually have to go to those 100 places and individually or manually change those. With a tool like Eclipse, you can click on a button and you can click on a refactor. It's called refactoring. One click, type in the new name, and it goes through and does the 100 for you. And it also makes sure that they're all okay. If you can imagine doing this manually, you might forget to do one, or you might make a typo, those types of things. These are the types of things that these interactive development environments are really, really good for doing. And look, in some cases, it'll even write certain parts of the code for you. And in some of the apps that we're creating, I'm going to show you some of the things where some of the sort of functions of these IDEs where it does do just that. It creates and sort of automates writing parts of the code just to really reduce the amount of manual stuff. Reduce the tedium, I guess is what I'm saying. So again, you can focus on producing a great Android app and not get too bogged down in the syntax of cryptic commands and those types of things. So Eclipse first is my recommendation. We're going to focus on Eclipse, which is part of the Android developer tools first, and then progress to Android Studio, which is the latest product by Google with all the bells and whistles. Eclipse has been around, the Android development tools have been around for a long time, and they've got a lot of support out there, and there's lots of tutorials and examples, and lots of companies still using it. So it's really important that you learn this basic tool first, and then branch out and go into Android Studio. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. Don't skip the Eclipse thinking, okay, I'm just going to go straight to the Android Studio, because you will need to have that fundamental knowledge of Eclipse. And look, it is a good tool, and it's a great skill to have that skill set to show on your resume, to know that you've got experience in both of these. But do refer to the separate Eclipse Android Studio video. I go through and just sort of outline this in more detail. Keep in mind also, I'm covering both of these in detail in the course. So that's the installation and setup of the Android developer tools, Eclipse, but also Android Studio, and both for Mac and for Windows. So you're not going to miss out. It's best that I've designed the course to start off using Eclipse. The first 5 apps are done like that, and then the remaining 5 are done using Android Studio.